The lawyers expected to answer questions asked by judges. But for now, let's have a look at what was happening at the Supreme Court today on this first day of September 2022. My name is Grace Ongoi, and our sign language interpreter tonight is Boniface Mureithi. Let's begin. Smartmatic International, the technology firm which was contracted by the IEBC to facilitate electronic voter identification and results transmission in the August 9th general election, has reportedly declined to open its servers for scrutiny as orders by the Supreme Court. In a letter to the IEBC, Smartmatic said granting full server access to any third party could jeopardize elections in other countries and infringe their intellectual property rights. The Supreme Court had ordered that the servers be accessible to Raila Odinga, the first petitioner in the presidential petition, in order to access Form 34C. Meanwhile, the court heard that the IEBC refused to grant supervised access to server number 5, which had, and I quote, footprints of suspicious activities. Dickens Luvanda begins our bulletin.
The technology company which supplied the IEBC with electronic voter identification and results transmission services, the Smartmatic International, has refused to grant full access to its servers that host Form 34C, as ordered by the Supreme Court in the presidential petition against the IEBC and William Ruto as the August 9th election president-elect, filed by Azimio coalition led by its leader Raila Odinga. The IEBC served orders that it grants the petitioner supervised access to any server used to capture images of Form 34C, which carries the total votes cast at the National Tallying Center at Bomas of Kenya.
Kila mtu imba.
According to Odinga, the IEBC systems were infiltrated and results changed. In a letter dated September 1st through the managing director F. Gunning, the Smartmatic firm said that providing full access to the images of its servers, as requested by the Supreme Court, would infringe the intellectual property rights. The firm also said that providing third parties access to its source code and security features, including transmission certificates and encryption keys, will render the system insecure for any future use in Kenya or anywhere else in the world, and will also jeopardize elections in other countries that are using or have used their systems. Meanwhile, during day 2 of the petition hearing on Thursday, the Supreme Court sitting at the Milimani Law Courts said that IEBC complied with the orders directing the Commission to grant Odinga's team access to its servers. Odinga's lawyer Philip Murgora and his co-petitioner Martha Karua said that the IEBC had not fully complied with the court's orders.
We've been using the word servers in plural, but I would like to refer to the affidavit of Mr. George Njoroge at page 11, which gives the name or identity of the 8 servers. Page 11 of the forensic report by George Njoroge, which gives the particulars of all 8 servers. Of those 8 servers, IEBC are providing only limited access to server number 5.
Justice Isaac Lenaola deferred the matter to Friday. Dickens Luvanda, Hope TV News Watch.
Moving on, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has dismissed claims by petitioners in the presidential election that IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati did not act in accordance with the electoral laws as stipulated in the Constitution when he declared William Ruto as the president-elect. While giving their submissions on the second day of the presidential election petition hearing, IEBC submitted that if this election is so badly flawed, then the Supreme Court will find that every governor, senator, member of parliament and MCA was not properly elected, and the whole of the government of Kenya should be reconstituted afresh. As Kennedy Kimani now reports, IEBC has further dismissed claims that the 4 dissenting IEBC commissioners were not fully involved in the process of tallying and verification of presidential results, reiterating that claims of being sidelined by IEBC are inaccurate.
The attack on the chairpersons of the commission has a long history.
In the second day of the presidential election petition hearing by the 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has dismissed claims by petitioners in the presidential election that IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati did not act in accordance with the electoral laws as stipulated in the Constitution when he declared William Ruto as the president-elect in the August 9 polls.
There is nothing wrong with IEBC. There is nothing wrong with Wafula Chebukati. There is something very wrong. There is something very wrong in the way the persons who participate in the electoral process accept winning or losing. That's the problem.
In their submission, IEBC argued that if the election is so badly flawed, then the Supreme Court will find that every governor, senator, MP and MCA was not properly elected and the whole government of the country should be reconstituted afresh.
My client, Mr. Wafula Chebukati, is a man who enjoys constitutional protection of his tenure. Why did the Constitution protect him? Not him alone. The chairman of independent commissions, for precisely this form of witch hunting.
IEBC has further dismissed claims that the 4 dissenting IEBC commissioners were not fully involved in the process of tallying and verification of presidential results, reiterating that the claims of being sidelined by IEBC are inaccurate.
The law requires for the commission to hold a minimum of 1 meeting per month. More were held during the elections. They attended all those meetings under the affidavits. The vice chair and Mr. Wanderi attended the trip you are told about in Greece, where they went to check on the presidential ballots. The announcements were made by these good people almost 70% of the time. In other words, almost 70% of the announcements done at Bomas were done by these particular commissioners.
The Constitution cannot countenance that a constitutional office holder is to be witch hunted in the manner suggested here. That he walked out of his office and took the phone many times, then came down and sat down and did not consult the people who were having tea. A whole lot of irrelevant material that cannot be the basis of interfering with the independence in section 163 of Mr. Wafula Chebukati.
Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, lawyer Kithure Kindiki has claimed that the chaos witnessed at the Bomas of Kenya on August 15, 2022, before the declaration of his client, William Ruto, as president-elect, was carefully orchestrated in order to install an unconstitutional government. Making his submissions before the 7-judge bench on Thursday, Kindiki alleged that senior state officers were behind the invasion of the dais at the Bomas of Kenya on the said day in a bid to deny Ruto what he termed as a deserved victory in the presidential contest. On behalf of Ruto, the lawyer lamented that despite officials of the IEBC being injured in the chaos, the relevant state agencies are yet to record statements from any of the perpetrators.
On 15th August 2022, a mob of people, including people holding senior positions as state officers, invaded the dais at the National Tallying Center of the presidential election at the Bomas of Kenya. In what I regard as a very, very orchestrated and clear attempt to interfere with the powers of the IEBC to declare the presidential results following the verification and tallying of those results. As a result, chaos erupted, several IEBC commissioners, staff, and other people who were lawfully at the tallying center were seriously injured. To date, nobody has been asked even to write a statement on what happened on that day. Today, no investigations whatsoever have been made by the agencies of state which should be doing this. And to date, this heinous and frontal attack on our democracy remains unresolved, and the perpetrators are marauding around the country, and some of them are in this courtroom.
Still on matters of the Supreme Court, day 2 of a hearing petition saw Senior Counsel Fred Ngatia, the lead advocate for President-elect William Ruto in the 2022 presidential petition, pour cold water on the plea by the petitioners to have the August presidential election nullified. In his argument before the 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court on Thursday, Senior Counsel Ngatia defended Ruto's victory as well as the conduct of the August 9th polls, stating that annulling the election will be setting a bad precedent in the country. The lawyer at the same time called for the coalition to prove that the soft copies of Forms 34A differ from the hard copies. Ngatia dismissed claims by the petitioners that the presidential results forms from the IEBC were intercepted and altered in favor of his client.
This honorable court were to even countenance anything other than stability and finality, then a constitutional crisis would be triggered because the petitioner has repeatedly said he will not participate in an election held by IEBC under the chairmanship of Chebukati. We have adduced that evidence in the replying affidavit sworn by the first respondent. That replying affidavit is before you. It was filed on 26th August. We have attached a clip of that discussion. It's in an affidavit by Samuel Gedhae of the same date, 26th August, and all those are matters that are before you. Since the petitioner will not participate in a fresh election, does not want to accept defeat, then what does he offer? What is the solution he offers? The solution he offers is that there be an election presided over by the vice chair lady of IEBC. And only one needs to state that to see the crisis that this country will be engaged in. It will be a crisis of monumental nature, a crisis that I do not think that you would want to play with that kind of fire, because it will be fire upon fire. In my submission, therefore, I would request this honorable court, as we begin our submissions, to bear in mind how Ghana resolved an identical situation by, number one, looking for the substantive truth, and then immediately that should trigger a relief which is finality and stability. If this honorable court were to do that, I see a future for us. Any other solution, the crisis offered by the petitioner cannot be a crisis that this court can countenance, because your fidelity is not to anybody other than the Constitution. Since your fidelity is to the Constitution, I dare say then the reliefs that you could consider are the reliefs within the constitutional structure.
Away from that, Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga has sent all senior county human resource managers on compulsory leave pending audit and investigations on human resources and payroll systems. In a statement, Wanga said that the action was influenced by complaints from the public and several allegations of irregularities and ethical issues touching on recruitment of staff in the county government of Homa Bay. The officers set on compulsory leave are Lamek Ogot, Director of Recruitment and Selection, Boaz Nyagute, the Administrator, Lynette Oguda, the Secretary to the CEO of the County Public Service Board, Charles Auma Modi, the Director of Human Resources Management, Solomon Ochogo, the Payroll Manager, Alfred Okumu Chuchu, the Director of HR, Duncan Akecha, the Human Resource Officer, and Winfred Otieno Award, the Director, Department of Education and ICT. This comes just 7 days after Wanga was sworn in as Homa Bay Governor, promising to revive the county. She said this was part of her commitment to good governance, transparency, and accountability, devoid of corruption. Let's move to Kisii. The Kisii Governor Simba Arati concluded a head count of all drivers working in the devolved unit, part of the beginning of larger investigations into scandals involving irregular recruitment. The new county boss expressed shock over alleged irregular employment of drivers in the transport department within Kisii County, where up to 256 drivers had been recruited against 82 operating vehicles within the county. According to the governor, some of those recruited had no known assigned work within the devolved unit and were causing waste of public funds.
It's something we must sort out. Of course, I can't blame the team which has been in office, but it's something I want an explanation. Because these people, 256, they draw salaries, which is meant for development in the county. This one section, I thought I'll get the old vehicles. I want to give a direction that I want by next week, when all vehicles, be it they're giving essential services, I'll only need them for 1 hour. The 82 of them. All of them. You'll hear, I'll ask these people, wacha niulize, insurances that you guys have, is it a third party or is comprehensive? Weka mkono juu, third party. Wale wanaendesha magari ya third party. Waziri wa fedha yuko hapa, amekuwa akilipa pesa za comprehensive, but what you have been getting, it's a third party cover. I want to ask that we are going not to make jokes around. Hiyo pesa ingekuwa imetengeneza one of the hospital I saw at Kiobegi, a dispensary ambayo haina haijajengwa. We're not going to allow this nonsense to continue. Wizi lazima isimame, lakini mtu ambaye amekula pesa ya insurance, hapana.
Let's do one more story before we go for fast break here on Hope TV News Watch. Mombasa County Governor-elect Abdul Swamad Nasir has said he will prioritize reviving the economy of Mombasa during his tenure. Speaking to the media for the first time since he was declared governor-elect on Tuesday, Nasir said he had started receiving reports from all the county departments and that he is also being briefed on all the county's pending bills. Nasir, who expects to be sworn into office on September 15th, noted that before settling those bills, an audit will be conducted to establish the truth.
Priority number one ni ahadi kwa watu wa Mombasa lazima iweze kutekelezwa, ni economic empowerment. Uchumi wa Mombasa uweze kufanywa ile kutoka ICU. And I'll be meeting the business community as well kuangalia ni njia gani, na nimepanga wiki hii I'll be meeting the business community kuangalia ni njia gani tunaweza kufufua uchumi wa Mombasa. And I'll be getting reports ili once we have already been sworn in tuweze kujua zile ahadi tuloziweka, ikiwemo ni kuweka permit zote kwa under one single permit, ikiwemo ni kuangalia njia ya kuweza punguza hizi permits vile tulivyoahidi watu. We have to do these things. Priority number one, like I said, we have the human resource, which is the biggest resource in the county government. Lazima tuangalie mambo ya mishahara. Pili, baada ya hapo lazima tuweze kuangalia wale walioweza kufanya zile biashara. Lazima tukae nao chini, tuwapatie mikakati ya kuweza kuwalipa ni vipi. Deni hizi nyingine zinapita miaka 8, miaka 7. Suluhisho ni kuhakikisha ya kwa tusiwe na madeni mapya, na yale ya zamani tuweze kuyalipa.
Coming up this September, CITAM Springboard Convention 2022 with fresh anointing to radiate God's glory as we reach out to the lost. Mark and save these dates from the 20th to the 24th September 2022 at CITAM Valley Road. The convention is themed Till the Whole World Hears and will definitely revive and uplift your faith. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Get ready for the Springboard Convention 2022. You don't want to miss it.
Thank you for staying with us. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has called on parents to support their children prepare for examinations, even as the last assessment for grade 6 learners continues until 9th September. Magoha was speaking at John Njoroge High School in Kasarani, Nairobi County, where he commissioned Phase 2 CBC classrooms. The CS further noted that over 9,500 classrooms have been completed across the country out of the 10,000 promised classrooms.
As you have heard from my officers on the ground, Nairobi is still doing reasonably poorly at just over 80%, when over 20 counties have already completed at 100%. The national average is at 92%. But from the point of view of whether we have succeeded or not, even at this point, we can say we have succeeded. But you know, that's not the way we work. Since we are dealing with human beings, which are children, we don't want, there's no 90% person. The person must be 100%. So I want to urge some few areas like Bungoma, here in Nairobi, and Kwale, which are still lagging behind that. We have a few days to go. One may argue that once you reach 95%, you are as good as you can be, but like I've said, our children are complete human beings, so we must complete classrooms for all of them. Even though you will see that we have built a few classrooms in the top schools, if everybody starts to choose them, I wouldn't call them intelligent, because it would be a total waste of time. Just that the government has spent money producing those classrooms. And there is no guarantee, for example, that if your daughter goes to Kenya High School for junior high school, that he will remain there for senior school. Because the competition for senior school is going to be open. And that will be the cutthroat one.
Still on education matters, the Eastern Region Kenya Secondary School Sports Association, KSSSA, Term 2 games commenced in Embu on Thursday after a 2-year suspension occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The games, which bring together 1,880 students from 8 counties in the Eastern Region, will be held in various venues, including Kangaroo Girls High School, Embu University, and Embu Talent Academy, and will comprise 11 disciplines, including soccer, handball, basketball, hockey, rugby, netball, and racket games. KCCA Regional Secretary Elijah Kiari said the biggest challenge they were currently facing was funding, given that some schools were not able to facilitate their students to participate.
Term 2 games ya mwaka huu imebadilika kwa sababu ni term 1 ile ya zamani. Kuna rugby, kuna hockey, kuna swimming, kuna basketball na pia kuna ile tulikuwa naita term 2 ball games, football, soccer na racket games ziliwekwa pamoja. So tunacheza ile inaitwa Olympic style sababu ya muda na vile mambo yako, na tukataka resumption ya michezo ili next year sasa kalenda iende vile ilikuwa inaenda mbeleni. Hapa Eastern Region tuko na county 8. Tunaanza Makueni, tuna Machakos, Kitui, Embu, Tharaka Nithi, Meru, Isiolo, Marsabit. Na kila county inatuletea discipline 11.
Tumekuja regionals, Eastern Region for the first time. Hatujacheza hii championship before. We are just a new team in the championship and we have come tukiwa tumejitayarisha kabisa. Tumecheza game moja, tuko kwa pool yenye iko na team 4. Tuko na Kerwa Mixed kutoka Embu, tuko na Chogoria Girls kutoka Tharaka Nithi na tuko na Thitani Girls kutoka Kitui. Kwa mechi ya kwanza kwa hiyo pool tumecheza Kerwa Mixed from Embu who are the hosts, na tuna imani ya kwamba tutaendelea kujenga kutokana na huo ushindi wa bao moja tumeupata. Tunaendelea kucheza mechi zile zingine katika kundi hilo la ba. Tuna imani ya kwamba as we continue ushindi tunapeleka nyumbani.
Let's now have a look at the international news brought by very own Faith Selfa.
The International Monetary Fund has approved a $1.3 billion loan to Zambia, saying it would help the country restore economic stability and foster higher and more inclusive growth. The fund said Zambia was dealing with years of economic mismanagement and its growth rates were too low to tackle poverty, inequality and malnutrition. In return, Zambia will have to tackle corruption, eliminate fuel subsidies and make agricultural subsidies more efficient. In Burkina Faso, a U.S. Roman Catholic nun who was kidnapped by armed men in Burkina Faso nearly 5 months ago has been set free. Sulen Tennyson, 83, was taken hostage in the middle of the night in early April. The bishop of the diocese where she served, Theophile Nare, said the nun was currently in a safe place and in good health. He added that he did not have any information on the conditions of her release. The identity of the kidnappers is still unknown. Meanwhile, Prince Charles will on Friday name baby gorillas at Rwanda's annual conservation event, Kwita Izina, a flagship event for Rwanda's tourism calendar, which is derived from the traditional practice of naming babies in families. The prince will be among 20 high-profile personalities who will take part in the event. However, he will participate virtually. This year marks the 18th edition of the Kwita Izina conservation event. This is the first time the ceremony has taken place in person since 2019 following the COVID-19 pandemic. And around 16 million people in the Chinese city of Chengdu will be effectively under lockdown as authorities race to snuff out a new COVID-19 outbreak. Chengdu in the southwest has become the latest to announce a shutdown, saying in an official notice that residents must stay home in principle to combat a new wave of infections. Each household will be allowed to send one person out to buy groceries and essential goods per day, provided they have tested negative in the previous 24 hours. China is the last major economy wedded to a zero-COVID policy, stamping out virus flare-ups with snap shutdowns, mass testing and lengthy quarantines. For Hope TV's Newswatch, I am Faith Selfa.
Thank you, Selfa, for that report. Now for some business news. Faulu Microfinance Bank has embarked on delivering in-person and online training on financial education to students in universities and technical institutions across the country in partnership with ISEC and the Old Mutual Foundation. The move is aimed at enabling young people to leverage the financial sector to unlock possibilities for career and financial growth. With this campaign, the bank targets to onboard at least 200,000 new customers on its DigiCash mobile application by January 2023, in alignment with the bank's strategy of raising the bar in terms of technology to ensure that customers experience convenience and security while transacting with the bank. According to a recent survey by the Kenya Bankers Association, at least 6 in every 10 bank customers prefer mobile banking compared to other forms of accessing banking services. Now for some sports news. Arsenal warmed up for their weekend Manchester United clash with a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa on Wednesday night to see unbeaten Gunners record 5 out of 5 wins so far. Arsenal struck in the 30th minute thanks to a gift from their former keeper Emiliano Martinez, who pushed a tame Gabriel Martinelli cross straight to Gabriel Jesus for a simple finish. Second bottom Villa were level when Douglas Luiz's corner flew straight past Arsenal keeper Aaron Ramsdale in the 74th minute, despite the host appeal for a foul. Arsenal responded impressively as Martinelli restored their lead 3 minutes later from Bukayo Saka's cross. VetLab Sports Club will this weekend play host to the latest leg of the 2022 NCBA Golf Series. The event, which marks the 12th leg of the series calendar following the postponement of the Tanzania tournament, teed off early this year and has attracted more than 1,600 amateur golfers. The golfers will swing into action early in the morning on Saturday, with the first group expected to tee off at 7 a.m. The golfers will compete for slots to play at the series grand finale to be played at Muthaiga Golf Club in December. Top finishers at the final event will win an all-expenses-paid trip to South Africa's Fancourt Country Club. And that sports news brings us to the end of this live broadcast. Many thanks for keeping me company and for the team who made this broadcast a success. My name is Grace Songoi, and our sign language interpreter tonight has been Boniface Mureithi. Enjoy the rest of your programming. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.